Let's kick off today with talking about daylight savings time. It's kind of apocryphal. A lot of people associate daylight savings time to Ben Franklin, which is not necessarily true, but what people are often referring to when Ben Franklin is associated with daylight savings time is they're talking about a very sarcastic letter. Yeah, Benjamin Franklin was a bit of a smartass for his day. So he wrote a letter to the Journal of Paris in 1784, and basically it was um, satirical critique of how some people were complaining about the cost of lighting their homes during the hours of darkness. And of course, the people that were complaining were usually quite successful, wealthy people. And he just thought it was funny that people complain over such trivial matters. And in the letter, you can look it up. Just look Benjamin Franklin, Journal of Paris, 1784 will pop right up. There's several sites that have the exact copy of the letter. Um, a couple of things. Ben Franklin is one of my favorite people of all time. It's Franklin, Richard Feynman, and Isaac Asimov, my three favorite dudes. But Franklin is one of my favorite guys just because the stuff he figured out, or the things he became a real domain knowledge expert about given his time in the 1700s. He was a pretty amazing guy, and he was hyper intelligent for his age, for his era. Um, and he understood things like it didn't matter whether you tilted the clock back or forth an hour or a half hour, like I think a couple of counties in Indiana did years ago or decades ago. Moving the clock back or forth has nothing to do with reality. Okay. Franklin wrote in his letter that it doesn't matter what you do to the clocks, seasons still happen. And there's nothing you can do to change that. Screwing with the clocks has nothing to do with reality. Look at all the falsehoods that have been associated with DST. Corn grows better because of DST. I'm sorry, do you actually think that corn can tell time? By the way, it can't. Neither can a dog, a gerbil, or soybeans. None of them can tell time. Um, and I'll get into what time is at the end of this segment. But to stick with Franklin's letter right now is one of the most brilliant parts of the letter is Franklin explains to people 8 hours sleep is 8 hours sleep. Okay, if the sun comes up at 5:30 in the morning, you'll probably go to bed at 9:30, or he said 4 a.m. You go to bed at 8, whatever it was. 8 hours is 8 hours is 8 hours. Okay, when the sun comes up or it doesn't comes up, that doesn't change 8 hours of sleep. Okay, he wasn't a sleep scientist. He was quite a polymath, but it's not one of the areas I'm sure he was an expert on. Um, but he understood that your body will adjust, or you'll just get your sleep. I mean, one way or another, it will work out. Um, you know, Hawaii doesn't have daylight savings time. Neither does Arizona. Okay, they're fine. It's not like because we don't switch the clocks twice a year, bad things happen. Okay, it. What was like? What are some of the other rumors? Car accidents are lessened by DST. No, there's no evidence for that. Okay. Um, DST is just like this habit we got into, and it has nothing to do with anything real. Like, to be a physics geek for a moment or two, time is not a clock or a calendar. Time is a property of the universe. Time is what we call the cascade, the entropic cascade forward. Okay. Just because we go, oh, it's 2 a.m. No, it's not. It's 1 a.m. And the other way around, the other parts of the year, oh, now it's 3 a.m. That doesn't change anything on Earth. It doesn't change anything in the universe. It doesn't make corn grow better. And if you think corn grows better because you adjusted a mechanical clock by an hour, you need help. Okay. So, somebody tried to get a bill in again this year. And of course, we don't have a good Congress to begin with, so they can't handle any real issue through, never mind something that has no basis. DST has zero basis. It has no fundamental meaning. Everything you've ever been told about daylight savings time is false. That's just the truth of the matter. So can we stop screwing with the clocks? Now, this is how bad when Congress starts screwing with things. This is why a long time ago, I said Congress should get rid of DST and never touch the calendars or clocks again, other than that adjustment we have to make on New Year's, depending on the orbit around the sun. Because sometimes we have to adjust it by a few seconds. Because our clocks aren't perfect. And again, that's not real time anyway. So it's just a mapping of time we use as humans. When other than having to do that 0.7 second adjustment on New Year's Eve every couple of years, there's no reason to move the clocks whatsoever. So somebody trying to input a bill this year, it got absolutely zero attention. And I'm like, okay, when Congress a couple of decades ago decided to move when DST starts and finishes, that was worse than it. They made a already bad problem worse. Okay, because the fundamental thing in computer systems, networking, and data sets, especially what we call time series data, okay, is guess what? Time itself. It's the time stamp when it occurred. Okay, so when Congress last time they screwed with the DST period, when it starts, when it finishes, the dates at both ends, it caused billions of dollars of business costs because we had to go back into all our programs, all our apps, all our network gear, either change code, update code, patch code, and then manually QA, quality assurance, everything to make sure when we switch on these different dates by an hour, none of the time series data and none of the authentication timestamps are wrong. Because if the timestamps on authentication packets, the clock on your PC versus the clock on the authentication server, if they're more than 5 minutes off, you can't get authenticated. Okay? We shift the clocks an hour and we didn't handle that hour shift right in IT operations and in data center operations, you're all screwed. You can't even log in. Not to mention that when we receive the data on the back end, like whether you're using, you're using your own data layer or you're using like Mongo and building it yourself, or you're using like Datadog, Cribble, Splunk, one of the big data layers out in the marketplace right now. If you can't account for that hour shift, you're screwed because your data is going to be all screwed up. All the timestamps are going to be wrong. And if your timestamps are wrong, your events are unverifiable. Okay. So I'm drawing a blank of who introduced the DSD bill, but thank you for trying again, sir or ma'am. It's what we need to do. So anytime someone brings up DST, tell them, hey, it's bullshit. Stop it. Corn cannot tell time. All it does is screw up computer operations. Okay. And we literally don't need it. Hawaii doesn't use it. They're fine. A lot of countries in the world don't use it. They're fine. Let's just get rid of it. It's a total headache. I mean, the couple of times that I've had to deal with it in computers, networks, royal pain in the ass. Okay. Get rid of DST. Stop changing the clocks. Stop screwing with us in computer operations. We don't like it. Thank you all for your restacks and your likes and your comments. Last couple of essays and videos really lit up. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the subscriptions too and the follows. That was wonderful. And I want to go back to my Snap essay because there was some follow up to that. Dear leadership of the United States of America, can you please stop your racist shit? Seriously, stop it. Okay. Tommy Tuberville, Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. I don't have any SNAP recipients as constituents. Okay, let's break that down. Well, let's first do a background to Tommy Tuberville. Before he was a senator, he was a public university football coach making $3 million a year. By my research this morning, 63.5% approximately of Auburn University's budget is taxpayer funded at some level, subsidized tuitions, direct assistance, and support for the university, yada, yada, yada. So Tommy Tuberville was part of a $60 million heavily taxpayer subsidized, if not paid for, football program at a public university. I guess the nationalist right now in the Trumpian land would call anybody working for the government or the public interest takers. They were on the dole by their language, by their parlance. Okay, so he was making $3 million a year on a $60 million a year football program at a small university. Auburn's not that big. Their football budget it was surprising to me. Personally, I'm a Stanford football fan. I've been to a bunch of games. My friend who has season tickets. Try to catch them on local TV when I can on the weekends. About a third of the program is subsidized by taxpayers. Okay, so it's okay if you make your money $3 million a year. How much are SNAP payments? Are SNAP payments anywhere near $3 million a year? No, they're not. No, they're not. But when you make $3 million a year, heavily subsidizes at minimum, heavily subsidized by the taxpayer. That's cool. Because football. Bleh. Okay. And I know it's a big cultural thing down south. It's just the way like ice hockey is in New England when I was growing up. Ice hockey's like, a minor religion in New England. I get it. But I'm talking about the hypocrisy here. Okay. You are on the public dole. My base research said about a third of the budget is taxpayer funded. So out of your $3 million a year, Tommy, as a football coach, about $1 million a year of that was taxpayer money, your and I's money. If you and I lived in Alabama, okay, that's okay. But a mom trying to support her kids is the problem with the budget. No. And again, that's why I put the data up. Okay, I'm not going to make. Sure, I'll throw some opinions out there, but I try to base my opinions on data so they are informed opinions. Okay, and I put the data charts up in the last essay. And again, thank you for the likes, the subscriptions, and the follows. That was really cool. Most of the people on SNAP are children or the elderly. Large components of those two demographics are disabled. Okay. The dollar per day count, I mean, what are you talking about? $8, $10 a day, something like that? In some regions, I mean, you're not talking like a fortune. Okay, here's an experiment. Break out your calculator on your phone or break out your calculator on your laptop, or if you got an old Texas Instrument sitting right there. Divide 3 million by 365. What's his daily budget on the public dime? Even if you just take the 1/3 of his pay and say that's the taxpayer funded portion of it, that's $1 million a year. Divide $1 million by 365. How much you making a day? Well, let's ask. Divide 1 million by 365.
If you divide 1 million by 365, you get approximately 2,740. So that's your daily figure if you spread $1 million out over a year.
$2,700 a day. A day to be a football coach. But you're having a meltdown over a few dollars for food assistance for poor people and disabled people and the seniors and kids. And some of those kids are like orphans. That's another thing, like when they say, oh, we're going to get rid of Social Security. What are you going to do about the elderly who literally can't work and the orphans who lost their parents, who literally have nothing to survive on? Okay. And I'm sure guys, and we all know, like guys like Tuberville, they call themselves the good Christians. We're all the heathens. We're all the bad people. We should all burn at the stake because we're not good enough. We know, Tommy, we know. But you're the one that's taking $2,700 a day. A single mom with 3 kids, what is she taking? Max in an expensive district, $25. But you put all the blame of societal ill on the person collecting $25, not the person making $2,700 a day. On the public dime. Now remember, he that's only the million. That's only the subsidized, taxpayer subsidized part of his football salary. $3 million a day. Okay, that's $8,100 a day. $8,100 a day for coaching football. So it's a good job if you can get it. Now, I'm not saying you should take away his pay. No, I didn't say that. What I am saying is you stop being such an asshole about other people, especially people who have trouble, honest trouble, fending for themselves in this society, in this economy, given their situation. When Tommy Tuberville claimed he didn't have any SNAP recipients as his constituents, take a quick guess in your head how many people in Alabama are on SNAP right now. I just looked it up. Take 1 second here. Just take an educated guess in your head. Okay, how many people in Alabama right now, 2025, are on SNAP? Tuberville says he doesn't know anybody on SNAP. He has no constituents that are on SNAP. Really? There's 750,000 people in Alabama on SNAP. Tommy Tuberville doesn't know one of them? Not even tangentially as a constituent? I find that extraordinarily hard to believe. Unless you're just being a racist asshole. Because I was watching a clip, I forgot who put it up. Could have been Tom or Arturo, but it was a Newsmax or OAN clip, and they went right into it. They went right into the deep racist end of the pool. They started off the conversation with SNAP in their B Block interview. Well, if all the SNAP dollars weren't being spent at nail salons, on liquor, and on weaves, we wouldn't have this problem. And I'm like, that's almost like a comedy sketch. That's almost like the Chappelle Show. Like somebody would actually get on air and literally spell it out like that. But yeah, that's what's happening. SNAP is a black problem. No, it's not. Again, I grew up in a working class family, in a working class extended family in New England. Yeah, we were on assistance occasionally. We were on the assistance of our relatives. I know our grandmothers and our uncles helped out our family a lot. Okay. And I know extended family members who were longtime food assistance and welfare recipients for a variety of reasons, including personal fuck upness. Okay. But am I going to complain about my great aunt Pearl living in subsidized housing in New England so she doesn't have to live outdoors in a New England winter? No. It's exactly what we should be paying for on our taxes. Help support our communities. Help our neighbors. This whole thing where the government isn't allowed suddenly. And again, I told you why the government isn't allowed to help people all of a sudden. Because the rich now have gotten so greedy. The mega wealthy have gotten so greedy. They haven't paid an estate tax. They haven't paid an inheritance tax unless their tax attorney was a moron. They don't pay equal taxes as we do with income taxes on their capital gains or their rigged capital gains they set up for themselves. Stock buybacks. Okay. And all the other bullshit they get handed a la carte by Congress every year, including the latest BBB. the big bullshit bankruptcy bill. Okay, that is another $4 trillion handout. Okay, they've gotten so goddamn greedy. They're like they look at the 37 trillion and they know what that 37 trillion represents. That $37 trillion represents two things. One, malinvestment. Okay, Iraq, for instance. Okay, the other thing is diversion of revenue. And where did that revenue get diverted? Right into the wealthiest people's pockets. Okay, they tried to adjust things a couple of decades ago, and they wiped out the estate tax for the wealthy. An estate tax and inheritance tax by, like I've talked about before, Bruce Fein, I think he was OMB under Reagan, much hardcore libertarian than I am. Okay, this guy was hardcore. Okay, and he actually snapped at a reporter during an interview. He was like, "That's not constitutional," you know. An estate tax, you're taxing a dead person. Who better to tax than somebody who can't spend their money because they're fucking dead? And the whole argument of, oh, you're just going to take away the family farms through your inheritance and estate taxes. No, there's always been an exception for a family farm and a small business. Okay, it's millions in exceptions. Okay, the chance of a family farmer going out of business, that much is estate tax. This much is corporate socialism, consolidation of the ag market, and screwing the farmers over by not guaranteeing their loans at the beginning of the planting season, and tariffs. Okay? That is the underlying causes. And they're in a complete panic now over SNAP because they see this $37 trillion, and that's starting to be a daily conversation for everybody. The debt is high. The debt is high. Private debt is high. Public debt is insane. Even though private debt is even higher, especially when you look at the corporate debt. Okay, we are a debt-laden society, yet we keep printing out new billionaires left and right. It's like a third of the new billionaires are all trust fund brats. Okay, you have 30-year-olds who are just getting dad's and granddad's money, and they're insta-billionaires. Then they want to complain how we have a debt when Clinton, Obama, or Biden is in office. The debt is a massive problem that's going to destroy the country. They immediately got into office this time and passed a $4 trillion black hole into the budget on top of everything else that's already there. So they don't care anymore. They're robbing the treasury, handing the money to themselves, stuffing in their pocket and going, look what the SNAP recipients did. What's really disturbing is, do you know for like the last 12 years, we have been making M1A1 Abrams main battle tanks we don't need and none of our allies need. Like they want to do this big thing where they just gave 24 of the T series Abrams to another country. I think it was South Korea. And I'm like, 24? We got 3,000 in Grafenwehr, Germany. We have another 3,000 in Fort Orange, California, in Palm Springs, or Thousand Oaks, wherever the fuck that is. Okay? Plus, we make them daily. We've been making them every day in Washington and Ohio. We're literally making armament we don't need. We're not going to have a tank war with 20,000 tanks. That is a non-scenario. But you're complaining about a couple of bucks a month or a couple of bucks a day for a hungry kid or a single mom trying to feed kids with a deadbeat dad, or parents got disabled or killed in an accident, seniors that are disabled or just literally too old to work. I mean, if you want to work and you want to keep working into your elderly years, hey, more power to you. I want to work until I'm 70. Okay? I want to write a lot longer. But I would still like to do like computers for a lot longer. Yeah. I actually enjoy what I do. I like solving puzzles. Okay. It keeps me engaged, keeps my brain working. I like it. Okay. If you want to work until you're 85, go ahead and do it. But I don't think you can force everybody to do that. And you're telling us that retirement isn't really an opportunity for most people. Then we got to talk about corporate socialism turning into sort of neo-feudalism and sort of a corporate slavery environment. Okay. People should have good qualities of life, especially in the richest nation on earth. People should have an opportunity to retire at a reasonable age. You should have access to education, healthcare, clean air, and clean water. This is the 21st century. What the hell? Why are these things like so big of an ask? These things like, okay, if we're going to run a reasonable society, these are the things you should have. Okay. But no, we have $1.5 trillion worth of dollars worth of fighter jets that they say aren't working right. Okay. We built literal ships for the navies that never saw combat, never worked, broke down when they were at sea. We build tanks we're not even going to use, and none of our allies will ever use. And remember, everybody's stopping with a few exceptions, like South Korea and those 24 tanks. A lot of people are going, no, we don't want U.S. defense deals anymore. We're going to go other places. And that's all because of Trump and tariffs and being an asshole through the State Department, being an asshole through Truth Social, telling every country on earth to fuck off. Okay, they don't want to do business with us anymore. They're literally working around us. Okay, and you're already seeing the Mexico-Canadian trade deal, the German-Japan Air Force agreement. Okay, you got changes that are happening all over the place when it comes to countries wanting our stuff. But we're going to keep building these tanks we don't need, and then we're going to point our finger at a disabled senior, a kid, or a single mom. I don't like that. And here's an overriding concept here. If you really don't want SNAP, and I go back and read my essay I just published about the SNAP benefits. It talks about this. If you really don't want SNAP, then get the goddamn big box retailers out of the business of paying their people low wages, no health care, and expecting the taxpayers to pick up the difference. Okay. Hey, Kimmy, how you doing? The fact that 1 out of 4 SNAP dollars are spent at Walmart, and then almost 15,000 employees are on SNAP, this is a self-fulfilling loop. Okay, you get all the business, you get the cheap labor, you get all the proceeds of the capital gains, but we pick up the costs so your employee and their children can eat a healthy meal, eat throughout the month without skipping meals. Okay, and when you cut SNAP, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about people who are literally going to skip meals and stop eating. Like, I've seen that in my own family. Okay, I've sent money to family members because they're like, hey, we just had a really bad month. We got behind on our bills, and they're eating popcorn for dinner. I'm like, here's a few $100. Go grocery shopping, please, until you get you back on your feet. Okay. So, if you don't want this, if you don't want this SNAP payment going out at this level, you're always going to have some sort of food and nutrition assistance, because if you're going to have this stratification of income and economy, then you're going to have poor people. And unless you're telling me you want slaves, then we're going to have to give them food assistance, especially when they're struggling with no other option, especially when they're disabled, or unfortunate situations like kids that are orphans. Okay, we're always going to have some spending in that arena. You don't want it to be $8 billion a month? Then tell these fucking big box stores to pay their way. And remember, I wrote this in the essay. I could not find any data about employees at UPS and Costco on SNAP. Then I look up their pay scales. They're higher than most, higher than average. See? They suppress wages knowing they can apply for taxpayer subsidy. Then when they apply for the taxpayer subsidy, the right wing freaks out. Not at the employer. The employer who's getting the feedback loop to them. Those people on Snap are coming to their store to spend their Snap dollars. Okay, about $2 billion a month of Snap dollars is spent at Walmart alone. You don't want all those Snap dollars being spent? Then pay your fucking employees. Going on to a new topic. Hey, if you guys want to talk about anything, just throw it in the chat. If I been reading about it, we'll talk about it a bit. But my next topic is going to be the prince formerly known as Andrew, Prince Mountbatten Windsor, or Windsor Mountbatten. It would have been funnier if King Charles would have made him go back to the old German name, Brandenburg. That'd have been hilarious. I would have been rolling on the floor laughing. But yeah, they cut Andrew off at the knees. Okay, and I have a theory about this. It's just an idea. It's just a theory. I'm not saying this is news. I'm just saying, like, the way King Charles hammered his brother, like, he got hammered so bad. Like, I was watching British news. Princess Anne tried to intervene. She's like, whoa, 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 don't go ape shit on him. You know, don't beat him to death with a crowbar. So I have a theory. Now, I don't like the monarchy. I don't like any monarchy. Okay, Groovy libertarian here. Don't like authority systems like that. Okay, but I kind of like Chuck. I kind of like him as a person. Never down on the House of Windsor. But I kind of like Charles. Okay. Now, what I think happened here is two things. And when I was watching the British press, James O'Brien and a couple other people roundtabling this, two things happened. One, I can kind of verify, is Andrew tried to push back. Major mistake. Major mistake. If the king was summoning you as the king, he didn't summon Andrew as his brother. He said, Prince, the king wants to see you. Get your ass here now. Why? Because you're in trouble. So Andrew tried to push back and try to intervene, not in a pushback way, and like, don't drive him into a mental disparity place where, this whole story gets worse for the family from what I heard on the podcast. But I think it was too late. Like when the phone call, whoever the chief of staff is for King Charles III, when they called the prince's chief of staff and said, you have an appointment with the king at 2:00 this afternoon, the decision was already made. In fact, the decision was made the day before. And I'm pretty sure Charles told Anne that this is going to happen. I hear what you're saying, but nothing's going to stop this. This is coming down. The reason it came down so hard, my hypothesis, King Charles saw the MI6 report. Because I think one of the things that the people who are trying to hide the Epstein files in several countries, by the way, these knuckleheads like Mike Johnson, he's Mike Grinder Johnson, Mr. Closet himself. He's under the assumption, the bad working assumption of the public presentation of there's only one copy of the Epstein files. I'm pretty sure other intelligence agencies, including ones we don't like, already have, if not the whole file, whatever that is, papers, USB sticks, hard drives, whatever. If they don't have the whole damn thing, they have a good chunk of it. King Charles was like, hey, MI6, remember me? Yeah, I need to know. And then some agent walked up in a very nice blue suit, dark blue, probably pinstripe, white shirt, red tie, double-breasted, of course, briefcase. Walks into King Charles' office, puts the briefcase on his desk, unlocks it for him. He looks at it and he goes, holy shit. And then he got mad. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I was a military police sergeant in the MPs, MPI, and did 2 stints with Army CID in two countries. So I think uh, King Charles saw the actual info. That's why it went down like this. Because he even kicked Fergie out, Andrew's ex-wife. She's gone too. Okay, so I'm thinking like this isn't like King Charles reading the paper, reading the London Times, or watching, whatever news he watches, in Britain, right? Or watching American, satellite. I don't think it was that level of understanding of the problem. It was, because even like that gal Virginia who did the biography, put some pretty awful details in there and name names. And other people are starting to leak names. So I really do think King Charles was like, ein Moment, bitte. I need to know. I need to know what's in that file. Because if it's a threat to the House of Windsor, I need to deal with it. The whole house could come down over this. So he looked in the briefcase, went, "You asshole!" Then, excuse me, Mr. Davis, would you please summon Prince Andrew to my office? And I wonder where they met. I don't know that part of it. Because if they met in his office, that was one thing, or his residence, that's one thing. They made him come to like the King's chamber so he could chew him out. That's old school. But yeah, I think there's Prince Andrew made a huge miscalculation on the whole Epstein playbook. And it's the same mistake Mike Johnson's playing, Dear Leader porn star Humper is playing, anybody else that's suspected of being on that list is playing. They think there's one copy. There's not. There's a lot more than one copy. 2, I already think if I had to bet $1,000 at irishbookie.com this afternoon, I would bet $1,000 that somebody like the Miami Herald already has a good chunk of the Epstein files. They just haven't released it yet because they can't get anybody to go on the record. And they know, because you're talking about the richest people in the world, including Donald Trump, who's making $5 billion in 10 months from his meme coin, they're going to sue, just like Peter Thiel sued that magazine out of existence. They're going to sue nobody likes pedos. No shit. I mean, when did we need a pedo protection racket in Congress? I mean, nobody asked for that, but that's what we got. And Mr. Morals, Moses Mike Johnson, is the one leading it, which is total horseshit. But yeah, everybody's overplaying it, and it's they got two ways. The pin has already been pulled from this grenade. Okay, there's no putting the pin back in. By the way, the cotter pin got broken. No sticking it back in. It's going to go off. It's going to go off in 2 ways. One, eventually, somebody like the Miami Herald is going to start dropping like confirmed blocks of information. Then everybody involved is toast. Okay, there's going to be no covering this up. The second thing is the victims are finally going to snap. They're going to say, go ahead, sue the shit out of me, but you're the one that raped me. Okay, they're literally going to sit in a panel. Now, if they're smart, they'll get lawyers and they'll file bankruptcy the day before. And they'll have $100 in assets to their name the day before the press conference. And then they just start telling their stories verbatim, naming names. That happens, you're talking a tsunami of damage to the political system, to economic leadership, to business leadership. It will be devastating. But I'm not defending any of this for a second. If a list exists, it should have already been released. If we have information that we had not only this is the double thing. The thing that Trump aide said, he said it live on TV. Well, we all knew Epstein was the biggest blackmailer. Really, Howard Lutnick? Really? Everybody? I didn't know that. I didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was literally blackmailing every man he invited to his apartment, his condos, his party, or his island. And the whole purpose of underage girls giving massages were purposes of blackmail. I didn't know that till recently. I didn't know it till Lutnick said it. I know those things existed or were rumored to exist, but I didn't know those things at any empirical value. No. But according to one of Trump's aides, yeah, everybody knew. Okay, so we have a pedophile ringleader, and he has to be a pedophile ringleader, because if he wasn't a pedophile ringleader, what the fuck is Maxwell in prison for? Ghislaine Maxwell, if I'm saying her first name right. I don't know how you pronounce it. My French is terrible. Had a French grandma, can't speak any French. If he didn't do anything with the little girls, then what is Maxwell in prison for? She's in prison for trafficking little girls with Epstein. So if Epstein, go through the logic in your head. Why is she in prison if that's true? If this shit comes out, and it will, one form or another, it will. Like, the reason they're not sitting Grijalva from Arizona, she won her dad's seat, is because Thomas Massie, the Republican, has already been told. She called him, and she said, yeah, I'm going to sign your discharge petition. That discharge petition overrides Mike Johnson and puts the vote to the floor. The vote wins by signatures on the petition. And Grijalva's the last vote they need to win. They have the win in hand. That's what Mike Johnson is blocking by blocking Grijalva. He thinks he can block this indefinitely. I don't think the federal courts are going to go for that. She is the longest non-seated electee ever to Congress right now. And then Republican, Democrat, left, right, I don't give a shit about any of that. When you get elected by your people in your district, you have a right to your seat in Congress. That has to be normalized. Okay? We can't say, oh, you get your seat because you're party A. You don't get your seat because you're party B. Wholly dangerous. Wholly dangerous. It's another reason why I keep saying is we need a strong third party or a strong independent movement. Okay, so it always isn't just party A, party B, the left-right orthodoxy. That is harmful as all get out. And right now you're seeing the impact of that. So do I think the Epstein files exist? Oh, yeah. And I think everybody in this government right now has seen them. They know what's in them. There are FBI agents that they were called to court, and they weren't worried about they were worried about perjury charges. They would probably have to testify that, yeah, I've seen the files, I've seen the names, here are the names I saw. And a lot of those names are exactly the names that Mike Johnson doesn't want to come out in the news. So why was Andrew shit canned? He wasn't fired, he was shit canned. King Charles knows what's coming down the railroad track. Choo-choo! It's the pedo train. And the pedo train don't have any brakes. It's coming. The king knows it. That's why Andrew got bombed. Yeah. He can't go to any family events. He can't say he's a royal. He has to move out of the house. His ex-wife has to move out of the other house. They're on their own. Unless they get patronage from somebody, one of their friends, they're out in the cold. Why? Choo choo. King looked in that briefcase and went, oh shit. All of it's real. That's my hypothesis. Let's go on a new topic. This Border Patrol guy, the guy with the Himmler haircut. Did you guys see Ungentlemanly Warfare with Superman and whole great cast? Alan Richardson, the Reacher, the big blonde guy. He's in it too. Henry Cavill, Superman. He kept repeating this joke line in the movie about he wanted these long, cool looking long jackets. And I saw a picture and I verified it. It was a newspaper report. Yeah, this idiot Bovano, freaking Proud Boy Nazi haircut in a freaking Nazi long officer's jacket. And I'm like, okay, you are just a danger to the Republic. Okay, and I totally disagree with the Seventh Appellate Court that just stayed the 5:30 or 5:45 daily meetings with the judge. Okay, your officers are being instructed to do things that blatantly violate the law and the Constitution at the federal level. The judge has already told you that. That was a finding of fact. Remember, only the district court can do finding of fact. So that fact was already found. You doing shit you're not supposed to do. Right after that, he gives an interview. I just watched it before I got on the air. He goes, well, if you don't want to be shot, I think he meant with pepper balls, but it could get worse. If you don't want to be shot, because they're also shooting people with a 40 millimeter too, which I saw that was bullshit. If you don't want to get shot, don't protest. I'm sorry. A protest is actually part of the Constitution. You can't ban that because you think you're the Gestapo fucking prince now. Fuck you. And I was respectful at protests. I told you guys before, I will end up, it didn't feel good the last No Kings protest. I woke up in a lot of pain I'm still recovering a couple of months down from surgery, woke up in a lot of pain. I didn't make it to the protest. Hopefully No Kings 3, I'll be there. I was online, was doing my No Kings renders on Blue Sky and putting up some posts, but I couldn't physically be down at the local protests. But the only time I've been in a protest is when I was wearing a blue uniform, being there as a patrol cop. And I remember there was this one weekend of summer where I worked, where all the tight ass Christians had to come to the shore and go to the beach, and I don't know, 4,000 of them. I mean, one year it was like 4,000 people. It was a huge crowd. They all had to hold up their signs about abortion and all disinformation, misinformation, screaming that their dogma be legislated, even though it's decided law. When I went there, I was like, you know what? I completely disagree with every one of you people in this crowd. But you absolutely have a right to protest. Even if I think you're 100% wrong, you have an absolute right to get out there and protest as long as you're not violent. Okay, and this crowd wasn't. This was always a peaceful. This was the churches from interior land in the state. They all band together and come out to what they saw as a more liberal area. Where was it? I guess slightly more liberal on the coast. Yes, but that was more because of another nearby city. The city I worked in was pretty middle of the road. And a lot of conservatives lived there, but not today's crazy nationalists, just small C conservatives. So when you're out there at the protests and you're watching this, I'm standing there. I'm standing in my patrol car. I got the radio on so I can listen to other cars in case there's an emergency, and I'm just there to keep the peace. That's all. And I don't want people coming up to them and starting arguments. I mean, if you want to say, "Hey, you're wrong," or your sign is bullshit, hey, that's just free speech. I get it. But if you're going to start, getting physically challenging or getting into a fight, yeah, I'm going to intervene and tell you both of you knock it off, or both of you are going to go to jail. Okay. Again, fortunately, this crowd, there was no violence. A lot of people flipping them off as they drove by, because if you've never been to an actual, like, I'm not saying back then it was Christian nationalist, it was more Christian theocratic. Um, Even back then, a lot of the information they tried to have was just bunk, just not true. And even people who said they don't like abortion, they were like, I don't like what they're putting out there. You can't use false arguments to state your position. Okay. Um, and a lot of other people, and this has been my wife's and I position. That's why we praised our neighbor. We had a neighbor who totally stood up on the abortion issue in his own way, and I thought it was beautiful. He's completely anti-abortion, 100%. Okay, and I'm like, dude, we agree on so much. How did you get there? I mean, wow. And he's not even that religious, and he's like 100% anti-abortion. So his niece got pregnant, so he and his wife adopted the child. They stood up. They took responsibility for that child. And I'm like, okay, dude, you walk the walk. I can't argue there. Okay. But yes, the Trump administration does lie as they breathe. They lie every single day. And now all of them are doing it. Did you guys see the report? I put this up in notes. AP did a review of 200 court filings, and they found over 100 lies in court filings. They're submitting false information to the courts, including about the protests, like in Portland, completely false information. Okay. During these Christian protests that I had to police, um, I never made up something about the protesters. I'm like, you want to hold a sign and state your piece? The soapbox is as Americana as it gets. Okay, you almost literally have a right to do this almost in any circumstance. I mean, it's up there like in a 99 percentile. You can't threaten people. You can't go running into a private business or a private residence thinking that's where you're going to protest. That's where a lot of people run afoul. Okay, you can protest on the sidewalk or in the city park all day long. Okay, as long as you're not violent, everything's good. Whether I think you're right or wrong, that doesn't matter. You're good as long as there's no violence. Um, but you've now got a class of bureaucrats who are telling people that literally, and again, this is back to that left right orthodoxy, the party A versus party B. If you're not in party A and you're party B, you do not have protest rights. To me, that's just absolutely absurd. And that's what makes these Goombas under dear leader. This is what that makes them an actual danger to the Democratic Republic, because this is a bit of a spinoff. But bear with me, I'll explain. Throughout the entire time in political discourse, the only way a terrorist group was taken out of commission was reintegration into the political system, quote unquote, giving that group a voice. The Sinn Féin is not IRA. Okay? It's a political party now in Ireland. It's not a terrorist group. Okay? They're reintegrated into the system after the Troubles as part of the Good Friday Accords. Okay? That's how you solve political violence. Okay? How you create a political violence is telling a group they don't have any voice. And if they say their voice, you're going to use force against them, military force against them. That's exactly how you're going to end up with political violence. Okay? Which makes me think that these guys, this is almost their playbook. If not their playbook, I mean, just outright, this is what they want. I mean, I said this last live video. I went through, so you didn't have to. I went and looked at Stephen Miller's Twitter feed. Oh my God. The sociopathy runs deep there. Okay. This Bovino guy. And I got no problem with deporting a felon. Don't get me wrong. You commit a felony in the United States of America and you're not a citizen or a legal resident after your prison sentence, goodbye. Same thing happens in Germany. Remember, I lived there for over 3 years. Yeah. You commit a felony in Germany and you ain't a German citizen, you're going home. You're literally on the next plane out. You're not allowed to be in Germany anymore. I got no problem with that. Hell, we had to do that for an army soldier. He got caught up doing crimes with a biker gang in West Germany. He ended up going to a German prison. We had to send a detail of MPs to the German prison, pick him up, drive him straight to the Rhein-Main airport, and physically put him on a plane. Per orders of the German government through the Status of Forces Agreement. That guy was not allowed to be in their country anymore. And we're like, well, yep, we'll take care of that for you. Okay. But that's not what they're doing here. There's so many few people that, like, what was it, 24, 28%? Wasn't a big chunk. I mean, the super majority of the people you're arresting have no criminal backgrounds whatsoever. Okay. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. You're playing whack-a-mole and you're telling me you're doing law enforcement. Okay. I'm an ex-military police and I'm a retired peace officer, and I'm telling you, what you're doing has absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with law enforcement. Sans those few people you picked up that were felons. Okay, but also at the same time, if we're trying to clear out felons, why is the DOJ importing cartel members and then screwing cartel members' sources? I was listening to that in a podcast and I was just shaking my head. Malcolm, the ex-spy on Substack here and other channels, I was just shaking my head. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we take one stupid step and then go, oh, 3 more stupid steps should do the trick. So we don't need these ideologues and zealots executing policy. This is why we need to get better as voters. Yeah, Malcolm is cool. He's a smart man. I really enjoy his stuff. Well-read, well-experienced, majoritively a very straight talker. I like him. Couple other people I recommend that right now is definitely be listening to some Peter Zion. Okay, on YouTube. He's got a Patreon where you can get some more stuff, but a lot of the 10-minute videos are all on YouTube. He's a geostrategist. He teaches at governments and he teaches Navy postgraduate school in California. He instructs all over the world, and he's a really smart guy, and he understands global trends. Not saying he's 100% correct, but I'm saying he knows more than most. And when you start to hear some more bombastic information, he's the one that kind of, helps lay people understand some realities of the policy. Like Venezuela does not make fentanyl. Okay. Can we make it any clearer than that? Peter was talking about the other day. Another guy I really recommend is Mr. Global, Matt Rudolph, on oil and energy supplies in oil rigs drilling. Zion is Zeihan. Mr. Global, Matt Rudolph, energy expert, I think from Shell. Real center of the road guy, really straight, matter of fact, and give him some love, even if it's just some likes and a subscribe on YouTube, because MAGA is hitting him hard. These idiots do not understand how energy actually works, or how oil rigs are already shutting down because we have shitty policy under dear leader. Energy prices aren't going where you think they're going. Electricity prices are going to be really bad soon. All these things. Yeah, MAGA's nutting up over this shit. Okay. Anybody telling you a real hard truth and they use the data to show it to you, the red hat rubes are awfully pissed right now. So show Mr. Global some love. And there's a couple of people out there that are good, because I've been really on an anti-Joe Rogan, anti-cable TV news track for a while now. Listening to people, especially when they have an independent channel, an independent voice, one of the old conservative, small C conservative writers at Washington Post, Jennifer Rubin. She does the Contrarian now. Nick Parro, yeah, good suggestion. I think she does the Contrarian. Yeah, that's the Contrarian. Give her a couple of reads when she's in interviews. Listen to her. Real smart. Oh, speaking of vets, Kimmy, retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He's over at the Bulwark, and I think he's been on Midas too. Look for Mark Hertling, Hertling. 7th Army, usurer. I usurer my old sector of the Army when I was back in there in the 80s. Really super intelligent guy, very matter of fact. An officer that deserves a lot of respect. He's telling a lot of truths right now that Red Hat Land doesn't want to hear. Okay. I haven't listened to him in a while. Old Colonel Lawrence used to be on MSNBC. I could look him up again because he was a truth teller. Oh, there you go. Very good. You found him. We need smarter voices, and we stop needing to use templates to explain things. And I think that's the problem with cable TV news, and that's why I don't watch it. I don't watch Sean Hannity. I don't watch Rachel Maddow. Okay. I used to tune in like on Friday nights, see what Rachel was talking about on Friday night because she usually had a long-winded B block about a big topic. I'm like, okay, let's see what, capital L liberals are concerned with this week. And I thought she had a valid show going on. Plus, she made cocktails at the end of the hour, which I always thought was fun. I didn't think it was very newsworthy, but as a guy who likes to have a cocktail, I thought it was fun. I used to watch Shep Smith on the noon hour. I used to put him on my DVR, and I'd watch him at night. Over at Fox News. That was a hard news hour back in the day. Okay. Cable TV isn't what it was. Even though all the false cable TV started with, the infotainment hours or, the 24/7ing the Iraq War, or worse, the 24/7ing the Rodney King riot, and not putting it in any context and not talking a lot about who was trying to stop the violence. Cable TV has had a lot of train wrecks, but even with that said, they're kind of worse off today. Independent reporters are the best. That's absolutely true. And I think it's great that so many people left the New York Times and the Washington Post and the other papers, LA Times, that got bought by the billionaires, because now they're on Substack. Now they're on Blue Sky. Okay. Now they're on Medium. Okay. And they're writing for themselves as a knowledgeable, experienced journalist. And they're saying it from a very a personal direction without the cap that's being put over the papers now. And that cap over the papers is so dangerous. I'm probably repeating myself, I know, but the Post with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks plays the Washington Post editor. Meryl Streep plays the owner. End of the movie, he comes in with a grocery paper bag, and it's got all the newspapers of the country in there, and he just walks in her office, sweeps her coffee table up. She's like, "What are you doing?" And he starts slamming down the papers. Atlanta Constitution Journal, Boston Globe, Christian Science Monitor, Sacramento Bee, Detroit Free Press. Boom, 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 boom. He's got 24 papers, all have the same story. Okay. That was one of the best moments in American history. And people should look at that point in history and going, that's why America is better than other countries. When the newspapers back in the 70s knew the country had been lied to over the Pentagon Papers, they all told the truth at once. Why? Because someone threatened them that they couldn't tell the truth. See how the newspapers have changed? Yes. Yes. Even the conservative papers like the Sacramento Bee and the Christian Science Monitor printed that morning. We got lied to over the Pentagon Papers. They all lied to us. Eisenhower to LBJ to Nixon. Everybody's lying. The whole thing is bullshit. Everybody printed the story all at once and then followed up with the cover-up. Everybody did it at once. It was beautiful. It's one of the greatest moments in American history. Okay, because it proves in the Supreme Court decision that came back and it was a blowout in free press under the First Amendment was the founding fathers knew what the fuck they were doing. That's what the Supreme Court says in that decision. The founding fathers foresaw this very moment and knew what the duty of the Fourth Estate was. And the founding fathers said, go for it. Okay? Now, see how the press has changed? See how the newspapers have changed? See how the Supreme Court has changed? Okay? Roe v. Wade and the free press decision were just a couple of years separate in the 70s. Think about that for a second. Okay? Now they're shooting at journalists with non-lethal weapons and pepper balls and shit. Not to mention shooting a preacher in the head. I can't imagine doing that. Do we have a Supreme Court? I don't know. My gut tells me we no longer have a constitutional court. We have a arm of a hijacked political party making decisions on behalf of a political party. Yes, we also used to have a fully functional Congress. Well, let's talk about that for a second. That's a great point. Let's talk about that exact thing. Let's go back to Nixon again. Again, everybody put the Pentagon Papers down the same day. Another big thing that happened back then was when the Watergate stuff came out. Okay, it was the New York Times in competition with the New York Post. Then the other papers started jumping in and everybody wanted a piece of the story. And then it became the news of the day after day after day. And more information was getting reported by more and more newspapers. Okay. Then when Nixon had to release the tapes, it was over. So yes, we used to have a Congress and I can prove it. Okay. The night before Nixon resigned, Barry Goldwater, Senator, Arizona, led a delegation from Congress to the White House. They met in the residence. That room you see in TV and movies, with the TV and the long couch, and they'll sit there and have scotches and talk, when they're off duty. The president works practically 24/7, so you at least got to give him that. I'd want a place to sit to have a scotch if I was the president. But they took him in the room, and Barry Goldwater literally sat directly in front of Nixon. And he goes, you have to understand at this point, you don't have any support in Congress. You no longer have my support in Congress. If you don't leave, you will be impeached tomorrow. Then they got up and left. At noon the next day, Nixon resigned. Why? Congress wasn't going to put up with this bullshit. Now, you got to remember, Nixon wasn't the first problem. Spiro Agnew had already been kicked out of office. Spiro Agnew was taking briefcases of cash. Okay? BB, capital B bribery. That's Spiro Agnew. And he got caught red-handed. He was facing like 24 charges. If they actually would have done him like a real suspect, he could have gone to prison for 40 years. That's how dirty Spiro Agnew was. And DOJ already got him out on a civil agreement. That's why he didn't get prosecuted, because the DOJ says, well, you leave office, you never run for political office, you never become a corporate officer, and a couple other things. You get out, we won't charge you. And of course, Spiro took the money and run. Ooh. Take the money and run. Old Steve Miller. Yeah, we used to have a functional government, and we didn't put up with bullshit. And we had politicians that would take a stand. Does anybody remember Anderson? Midwestern guy. He was the guy in the run up to the primaries in when Reagan was in the primary leading up to 80. Okay. They let their defense policy cat out of the bag is they're going to create an 880 ship Navy, which is crazy. Still crazy today. We try to pull that stunt. I understand we were trying to pressure the Soviet Union, Cold War veteran here, well read on the Cold War. I understand all the dominoes and all the chessboard, yeah. But still, that's a lot of fucking money when we had shit to do at home that didn't involve building aircraft carriers. Even though I think aircraft carriers are pretty cool, at least in technology and engineering. I don't like the fact that one is heading toward Venezuela. I don't like that at all, but they're cool. But we were calling for a massive overbuild, and a giant cut in taxes at the same time. Anderson was like, foul on the field, okay, game misconduct, you're out of here. He left the Republican Party, ran as an independent, got about 8% of the vote, best third party vote other than the Texas crazy dude there, EDS chairman. What the heck was his name? The guy with the ears. Oh, what the hell was his name? I'll remember it in a second. But yeah, Anderson called Reagan out to his face. It was like, okay, your budget is bullshit. Lifelong, card carrying Anderson, Republican, an Eisenhower Republican, looked at Ronald Reagan and was like, yeah, you want to go, you want to have a war on drugs. What drugs are you on? Because you have to be on drugs to believe this fucking budget. And it was all bullshit. We knew Reagan's budget was bullshit. It was scored bullshit. They still passed it. It was so bad that when Daddy Bush became president, the first thing he did was raise taxes because he was like, holy shit, we can't keep doing this. This is stupid. He called it voodoo economics. It was true. It was true. It was that math did not add up. That's what we call crack math back in the day. Yeah, hi Tom. Thanks for joining. And I'm sure there's a lot of other examples. Like, when's the last time Congress overrode a president? Let's ask that question. When is the last time the U.S. Congress has overrode a veto from the president?
So, as of right now in 2025, there actually hasn't been a case this year where Congress overrode a presidential veto. So, it's been a while since that's happened.
When is the last time Congress actually did it? What year?
So, the last time Congress actually overrode a presidential veto was back in January 2021. They overrode then President Trump's veto of the National Defense Authorization Act. So, it's been a few years, but that was the last notable instance.
What was the one before that?
Sure. Before that 2021 override, the previous one was in 2016. That's when Congress overrode President Obama's veto of the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or JASTA. So you'd have to go back to 2016 for the one before the Trump era override.
Two overrides by Congress since 2016. I don't remember that much alignment between Congress and the White House. Who is that, Kimmy? That's Chat GTP 5 in voice mode. I have a paid subscription account there. I'm on the advanced engine. I have long-term memory turned on, so like when I ask questions, it actually tells me where all that information came from in case a mistake happens. So Congress doesn't work very hard. You're right. That is a very true thing. They do not work, especially right now. They haven't worked in what, 5+ weeks. Because again, they're trying to keep the Epstein files secret. Because if Congress is put back into session and that discharge petition is signed, that becomes the business of the floor. The parliamentarians will intervene. And this is when Speaker of the House, Mike Grinder Johnson, this is where he gets in trouble. Because if he thinks he can start overriding the parliamentarians and just telling people he's going to run the House any way he wants, like Dear Leader thinks he can run the country, that's going to be, I think that's going to be a bridge too far, even with some House Republicans. They're going to go, what the hell are you doing? You know, if you don't like the parliamentary rule, kind of the game in Congress is you run out to the rotunda, the second floor where they do the interviews, and you, damn parliamentarians doing all the wrong thing. No. Okay, you don't actually go after the parliamentarians. That's bad form. Okay, and it's a kind of a written rule thing. It's there's certain bridges you don't want to cross, because as soon as the equation flips, power shifts, then what do you want the other side doing? And again, that's part of the problem with only having two parties. I mean, we need a big independent movement, or we need a third party that takes a good chunk of the votes and distributes them across the states in a counterbalance sense to this constantly polarized AB fashion politics that's going on. Because when you see what's happening with do you think they will be held accountable someday, this entire administration, with all the harm they are causing? There's a couple of problems the administration officials have. The first problem is, I think a lot of the numbskulls under Dear Leader, especially like I think highly functional idiots like Kristi Noem, they think immunity applies to them. Trump's immunity, the presidential immunity, applies to them. It doesn't. It just flat out doesn't. Okay. Why do you think the generals were sitting so stoic, and the command sergeant majors and equivalent E9s, the senior NCOs, and the sergeant major of the Army, sergeant major of the Marines, the top NCOs? Why do you think they were so stone faced in that meeting with Hegseth and Trump? Okay, they can spout any crazy shit they want. Trump can say anything he wants. The Supreme Court says he can, literally walk up and stab a numb in the face. Nothing we can do about it. Okay. That doesn't apply to any of the generalship. And they know that. And they've had legal training about that when they were at their advanced officer schools. Okay. Now, this is the worst thing in the earth that when you start talking about accountability, let me just use a counterweight here to kind of broaden the topic, is what do you do as a commander? And this applies at unit level, or it applies to the commander in chief. What do you do when you give an order that nobody will follow? Obviously, you have sycophants right now and rubes that are willing to carry out your dumbest of dumbest orders based on the weirdest and most factless claims out there. Obviously, you have people willing to execute policy based on grievance and animus, not data. Okay. That doesn't include the generalship. And I think the resignation of the Southern commander has a lot to do with this. I don't know if that's the exact reason why, but I do suspect that blowing up fishing boats and even blowing up the submarines. Now, there's ways, by the way, we've grabbed some of those submarines before, so we kind of know what they are. And I'm sure we programmed our computers to go, hey, that sounds like a homemade, drug boat. Just to blow it out of the water that not that's not really very justifiable. You would cable snare it or cable net it, drag it if you had to. I would want to take the thing to a port, check the whole thing out, have engineers tear the whole thing down. I want to know how it operates. I know how it navigates. I want to know everything about it. I want to know about anything and anything about uh, I could about that transport operation. And then I want to arrest and interrogate the people driving the boat, because obviously you have to have some knowledge of what you're doing to navigate a submarine a couple of hundred clicks in the Caribbean. Okay, so you got to know at least something. So we need to know a profile of who they're hiring. Just blowing them out of the water makes no law enforcement sense. As a guy who was in the drug war, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And then making a claim again, I know I've said this, but making a big claim that, hey, we're into Venezuela because of fentanyl. Well, that's holding up as well for them. Never mind, it's just everybody in the world is telling you no. I'm telling you, no, it ain't. It's Mexico, China, Mexico, us. Boom, done. Okay, you know that claim is aged well as RFK's pregnancy and Tylenol and all autism. Okay, that idiot admitted he's a total con artist. Oh, horrible he is in his position of in that role. It's horrible. Um, I don't have all the evidence. No, you flat out lied about it, is what you did. It was an awful, can't explain why other than there's some, and I thought about this and it in a dark humor kind of way. I kind of giggled about it. Was like, is there some like really like Darth Vader meets Mad Men marketing scheme going on at the White House right now? Is they like, okay, if we can just keep throwing shit out there at 100 miles an hour, okay? I watched Game 7. I'm not a real big baseball fan, but I like Game 7s and World Cups and stuff like that. So I watched Game 7s sitting in the recliner in the other room and watching, like, okay, they throw 50, 60 pitches and you're going to go get a relief pitcher. That makes sense, right? Well, imagine it's a 9-10 inning game and your starter's already on his 400th pitch. That's like the marketing strategy of the White House right now. And I think a lot of it comes from the two evil dipshits that like Miller and Vaught that are just it's a zealotry in politics that I've, even with the wackos under Nixon, like Colson, the real warrior of Watergate. Um, these guys are a whole new breed. They're worse than I can identify elsewhere in history. I'll put it that way. So yeah, I wish we had a stronger Congress. I wish Congress would get back to work. Uh, I but we just need to uh, we need to demand better representation, and how we do that is, I've said this before, we got to get out and vote. We got to go out and vote for more independent candidates. I'm saying this as an old man. We got to vote for younger candidates. Okay. Having somebody who doesn't understand technology because they're, you know, 25 years older, they're 30 years older than I am. Um, you know, you may know a Texas Instrument calculator, but you probably really don't understand how, like running an app on AWS works. So you setting policy on modern compute systems and telecommunications and, business laws or business regulations, whatever, and you don't even know how the modern system really cranks up in the morning. um, yeah. um, it, it it'll probably do ourselves better to have um, have a younger cadre in Congress. It's like that young padre that's getting pretty popular for the Democrats. What is his name? I always get it wrong. Teledectro. What is his name? Does anybody know it? The guy that's the faithful the padre there that's running for, I think, the Senate now. I don't know. I forget. Uh, but he's the one that's been saying, like, giving speeches like Christian nationalism is dangerous and shouldn't be part of our political system. And I'm saying that as a guy who actually believes. I'm like, more power to you, brother. More people need to stand up to do that. And I know even some conservative guys are doing it. Like, I watched I don't think he's what we call a mega preacher, but he's a pretty big preacher down in Texas, and he's one of the older guys. I forget his name, but a couple of weeks ago, I think the video was referring to, they showed about 2 minutes of it, and he is just not happy. Yeah, Kimmy, yeah. James, exactly. Yeah, Preacher James. Cool guy. Tarantino. I don't know. I can't remember right now. But anyways, the conservative guy in Texas, he was just like, where do you see in the book where you follow the teachings of a politician? Where was Jesus talking about politics? And he's being fervent. He's genuinely upset that, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't say that. This is not what the purpose of us all coming together is. And we're a country. We have freedom of assembly, and we have freedom of speech. So, yeah, you have a right to have an assembly on Sunday or Saturday or whatever day you think is cool, and come together as that said group. All good. But he's like, no, you can't be telling us that you're coming here to learn the words that we are telling you that is written in the book, and it's being replaced by some other made up stuff. And he goes like, it literally does not say this. When he goes, when you hear this, that's not true. It does not say that. And this is a real older conservative guy. So I think they're all understanding and this is the weird thing. Like in the 80s was just all this shit kind of like Junior. It was just a small version of it because Lee Atwater was trying to get in Project 2025 is their Bible. It's at least their playbook. Yep. Lee Atwater in 78 was the big pile driver activist for the Republicans. He was the sledgehammer behind the scenes. And he knew pulling in the preachers and kind of anointing him as the little bishops of America, they'd start preaching politics. And that's exactly what they did. They were promised a reward if they used the pulpit as politics, not as scripture. So many of them, just because it drove donations, for their TV hour on Sunday, they were more than happy to do it. Plus, they automatically assumed that meant they had automatic political authority. Like they could literally start wagging their finger and telling people how to pass laws, which they tried, but everybody just blew them off. Like, no, that's not how it works, dude. I understand you feel that should happen. That doesn't mean that's what the law is. Now it's the complete opposite. Now, because some people have feels, that's suddenly the law. And I'm like, no. Like, I have to look up, maybe do some research, write an essay later about, like, I'm still perplexed that an essential military assault against 100 domiciles in Chicago occurred. And I had a bot running for, 6-7 days looking for the filing of the affidavit. Nothing. Even if it's a redacted, it says, yeah, it's there. So I have to go back and see, like, do they actually have a search warrant? Like they said, like I was just saying, like they just go, oh, because I'm enforcing X, I don't have to follow other laws X, Y, and Z. And what they're trying to use is a theory called exigence. You can have an exigent circumstance, which means you had such an emergency that the delay itself would cause serious harm to something or somebody. Okay. Like waiting outside when you can look through the window and see the arsonist pouring the gasoline on the floor. Okay. No, you're going to go in there and grab him before he gets to the road flare and lights the building on fire, and you're going to get the fire department over here. Okay. You're not going to wait for a search warrant. The guy's going to torch the whole goddamn building before you can stop him. Okay. So that would be an exigent circumstance. I'm entering to stop a crime. Okay. You know, should I be entering randomly somebody's apartment? No. But I'm literally hearing a woman scream. Yeah, I'm going to knock several times and announce myself. The third time, the door's coming off the hinges. Okay, but I better have a damn good reason and a damn good explanation why I entered that apartment, or I'm committing trespassing and vandalism. Probably expensive vandalism. Doors are expensive. Okay, but they're trying to like exigent circumstance everything underneath the sun, and that's where it stops making any sense. Everything can't be an emergency. You're just trying to normalize a hyper-militarized state. And it's not only this whole thing, well, you already have an total embedment of military arms at the local level. And you're claiming you're some overwhelmed force who can't govern. That is an absurd claim. But yeah, you say Project 2025 is their Bible. Yeah, you're right, because the manual says no matter what the courts say, you say fuck off. That's what Beauvais is being accused of. He actually told the attorneys under him, hey, before he went to his judgeship, he's a lifetime judge now. Wonderful. Told his subordinates that if you're not willing to tell the federal court to fuck off, you shouldn't be working here. And I'm like, where is it in the purview of a federal prosecutor to tell a federal court to fuck off? I would like to see a prosecutor tell a federal judge to literally, quote, fuck off, close quote. They will immediately be fined. And they will be warned, utter that again, and I will literally throw you in jail this weekend. And then you will get the, do you understand me? And they will want a response. Okay. They're literally running that playbook. I wrote that essay. It's deep in my essays. August, the year before the election, I said, hey, here's the playbook. And now we're living through it. Up to and including, we have the right to declare any emergency and execute any emergency as we see fit. And now they're telling Congress they're not reviewable in Congress either. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I know the Senate have been a little, I don't know, limp dick lately. But is the Senate as a body really literally willing to hand their power to dear leader? If so, constituents, is this what you asked for? Are you serious? Again, we got to vote. Got to stay informed. Got to find smart, independent candidates. Don't look to crucify people. Okay? Find out what their real policies are going to be. Find out who they are. There's too much of a when young people or different people try to stand up. The first thing, and I know a lot of this is driven by the major political parties, but they just get hacked. It's like that guy in Maine. The what is his name? Planter. His tattoo that he covered up. I'm like, yeah, I actually seen neo Nazis. I've seen a lot worse. Um, he says bad decision. Okay, his online life is pretty much a communist. So how are you both right wing and left wing at the same time? I don't know. Clarify. But all I know is we need new leadership in Maine. So can you give me a policy? Um, do you think we will have fair voting? I Unless you're going to fund fair voting, you're not going to get fair voting. Okay. Again, this goes back to a better House of Representatives. Okay. People are going to represent the function of the people and the function of the government. Okay. Voting is a function of the government, run at the county level. Okay. Regulated by the states and the federal government. Okay. And I believe in 1-for-1 voting. None of this ranked choice voting. Not telling me we're saving money because we're doing it this way. Bite me. Okay. What if you have 3 Trumpian Nazis end up on your local city council ballot, and all I get to do is do 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. That's my only choice. That doesn't make any sense to me. Or I get one good candidate. I go, well, that's number one. I mean, the other, there's 4 candidates. It's ranked choice voting. One is a sane candidate. Don't agree with everything, but sane. It's like a retired teacher knows her shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got 3 Nazis, or 2 Nazis and a communist. I don't care. I mean, they're just 3 fringe wackos. One, here's the worst case scenario: 1 Nazi, 1 communist, and 1 Lyndon LaRouche follower. I only want to vote for the sane retired teacher for my city council. I don't want to vote for any of these people. I don't want to even nod my head in their direction. If that's their affiliation, then I'm not going to dismiss them as wackos. If you want to be a sane person, even if you tilt a little this way or tilt a little that way, cool. Okay? But you got to be in the same group. You got to be in the normal distribution. You got to be in the hump as far as sane people go. Like, I vote for people in city council, which they told me some things. I'm like, nope, yes. And that's very important to me. Oh, also, yes. That's another big thing for me. And then I am voting for them. Even though I got a couple of no's on them, I'll go ahead and vote for them. But again, if I decide that's the person I'm voting for, that's the vote I want to cast. I do not want my vote diluted. So if you want fair voting, we need to fund fair voting. If we want to fund fair voting, we need a better House of Representatives. So we literally have to have a blowout this midterms. One, we have to hope we survive that long. We have to hope the newspapers get a hold of something and pull that, that post moment where all the newspapers report the same story that the government's done something wrong. We got to find a way to get to the midterms, and the only bright spot right there is, man, I know the appellate courts aren't helping, but some of the district court judges, they're getting fed up. They're getting outright fed up. Okay, like one of them was like, "Did you know that this information was false?" She asked the attending attorneys that question. That's not a question you want to hear in court. It's bad enough being like the lead police officer in the case, or the lead detective, or a witness, whatever. but you're an officer of the court. You have an explicit responsibility code to follow. Okay, that's default for being accepted into the court. If the judge says, okay, because at the beginning of the court session they go, who you, which side you're representing? Okay, I know you. Who you? Oh, what's your part number? Oh, okay, you're all good, right? Yeah, okay. Any problem? No, okay, all right, let's go. All right, we're now in session. Boom, they're now accepted into the court. They are now officers of the court. You're not allowed to give fake information to the court. You can make honest mistakes. As soon as you find those honest mistakes, you have to report them. And you have to disclose that to the defense or the counter, if it's a civil suit, the counter party. The 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 administration currently thinks they have a right to give false information to the court. Good for us is judges are finding it left and right. They're getting pissed, and eventually sanctions will drop. Okay, there is going to be another wave. One of the silver linings to this very dark gray cloud we're under is just like the last cycle. Many of the attorneys, remember the what did she call herself? The Godzilla woman. Um, she lost her law license. Giuliani lost his law license. They lost. Judy says we will not have fair voting as we do not have right now. If we're talking about the midterms, Judy, I think we're at risk of that. Yes. The only bright spot in that vector is a judge dropped a PRO, a permanent restraining order. Boom. That's dropping a legal bomb. They cannot require citizenship and do a couple of their other related stunts. That's a permanent restraining order. They can't do it. Um, Other judges will sure follow, uh, because you have ill intent, and the justices are starting to write about that too. One of the good side of the propaganda site True Social, it puts a lot of their ideas on record and on the public record. And of course, there's sites that archive every single thing that's posted by certain personalities. So everything they put up, people are starting to extract that information and going, "Hey, this is what their real ideas are behind the policy," and the judges are starting to accept that as evidence. Okay, so they love to mouth off. They love to mouth off on social media. They love to mouth off on right wing cable TV news. They'll go to the dark side on the podcast. So is fair voting a front? Absolutely yes. The redder your state is, the more of a problem it is. The bluer the state you are, the more of a problem you have with a chance of physical interference from some federal entity. I think a lot of the legislation, let's get into, I have very little faith in the Supreme Court right now. It could surprise me on some fundamentals, but we'll know this batch of decisions come out where they've hung us out to dry. And that's the unfortunate thing right now. And what the trust fund brats and the mega lotto winners, in the tech industry and stuff, are kind of forgetting that all of America's like mega businesses are all built on the middle class and the upper middle class being their customers. Okay, if you're a super stratosphere like Walmart, you go from the poor and working poor all the way up the scale to people who are more wealthy, but they still want the value shop, and they don't mind Walmart's reputation. Okay. Anyways, let's get out and vote. Let's vote independent. Know a couple of really good issues with the person you're going to vote. Okay. Again, we're not nailing Jesus to the cross here. We're trying to find people who are going to set good policy and vote for younger people, informed people. And one of the things that should like rule things out for like almost all voters in the state, anybody who starts reciting how they want to legislate dogma. Mike Johnson is known for that. If you don't want to actually do the work of a reasonable and a secular government, you should be considered for public office, from city hall to Congress. Okay, and spread the word about voting. I mean, tell your friends how important it is. If you agree or disagree, I think one of the biggest problems we have in our political system is the non-voting but eligible to vote category. We get smarter voting overall and more of volume voting. You'll minimize a lot of the cranks who get into office. So, just a series of thoughts, and I hope you have a great Sunday. And until next time, think about it.